Welcome to Vibe Sense. So let's talk about August 2025. This is when the annual monsoon rains, they didn't just arrive, they transformed into something absolutely terrifying, unleashing what became a historic catastrophe across northern India.
And we're not exaggerating here. What we're looking at was one of the deadliest and most widespread monsoons in decades. I mean, this wasn't just a single flood in one place. No, this was a massive, multi-state disaster. It hit 6 states, stretching all the way from the high Himalayas down into the northern plains. Okay, to really get a sense of the scale here, just look at this number. We're talking 2,623 crore rupees. That's, what, over 315 million US dollars? And get this, that was the cost of damage to infrastructure in just one single state, Himachal Pradesh. Incredible. All right, let's really dive into how this all unfolded. So, where did this all begin? Well, the story of this deluge starts way up high in the mountains. This is where just an absolutely unprecedented amount of rain started to fall. And that's what kicked off this whole chain of devastating and, deadly events. This table really helps put the initial human cost into perspective. You see, in Jammu and Kashmir, more than 100 people dead, 200 missing. Then in Himachal Pradesh, the death toll climbs past 158, with almost 90 separate flash floods. But these numbers, as stark as they are, they just can't tell you the whole story. Because behind every single one of those numbers, there are thousands of individual stories of tragedy. Think about the Kishtwar flash flood. A sudden cloudburst, it just caught these pilgrims completely off guard. And that one event, just that one, claimed over 67 lives. And that's not even counting the hundreds more who were injured or just vanished. But here's the thing. All that fury, all that water unleashed in the mountains, it wasn't going to stay there. This was just the beginning. It was the start of a terrifying chain reaction, a domino effect that was about to send a wall of water down into the states below. Yeah, this sequence right here, it explains that domino effect perfectly. So first you get this insane amount of rain in the Himalayas. It just completely overwhelms the rivers and the dams. The people in charge, they had to make an impossible choice, right? Let the dams fail catastrophically or release huge amounts of water. They chose to release it, sending this massive surge hurtling straight for Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. And the result? It was an absolute catastrophe for India's agricultural heartland. In Punjab, you had 3 major rivers just burst their banks. In Uttar Pradesh, we're talking more than 750 villages flooded. That's 250,000 people affected. And the damage to crucial crops like paddy, maize, and sugarcane? Just immense. So, you gotta ask, right? Why did this happen? Was this just a 1 in a million bad monsoon, just really bad luck? Or was there something else going on? Well, the science is pretty clear. It points to a rare and really dangerous anomaly. Okay, so a huge piece of this puzzle is something called western disturbances. Now, normally, these are storms that bring rain in the winter. That's their job. But in 2025, they were super strong and super active right in the middle of the monsoon. And that is, well, that's not just unusual, it's a recipe for disaster. And this chart, wow, it really lays out the difference, doesn't it? On the left, you've got your normal, everyday monsoon. On the right, you've got the 2025 anomaly. And it wasn't just those western disturbances we talked about. You had other climate change factors kicking in, a shifting jet stream, warmer oceans. All of this stuff basically supercharged the monsoon, pumped it full of way more moisture, and turned what should have been seasonal rain into, well, a weapon. And the warning that came from climate scientists after all this? It's stark. It's totally unambiguous. They're saying this might not be some freak one-off event. This could actually be the new normal. So, when you're faced with a disaster on this scale, what do? Well, thankfully, the response was massive. We're talking a huge coordinated effort between all these different agencies, all in a desperate race against time just to save lives. And this operation was a huge team effort. You can see from the chart here, it was led by the NDRF, that's the National Disaster Response Force, and they had major backup from the Indian Army. You add in the state-level teams, the local police, countless volunteers, and together they managed to pull thousands of stranded people to safety. Now let's put this into perspective. If you look at the number of lives lost, it was, thankfully, lower than the absolutely tragic Kedarnath disaster back in 2013. But that number doesn't tell the whole story of the 2025 floods. The real story here is the sheer immense scope of it. This wasn't one region. This disaster hit more than 6 states all at the same time. And when you see a destruction on that scale, it makes one thing crystal clear. Emergency rescue, as vital as it is, just isn't enough. The whole focus has to shift. We have to start looking at long-term solutions. And that means everything, from better early warning systems for these cloudbursts to fundamentally rethinking where we build and how we build, in a world where the climate is becoming more and more volatile. Which really leaves us with a critical and, let's be honest, a really difficult question. With our climate changing faster than ever, are we actually preparing for the future? Or are we just stuck rebuilding the past, waiting for it to happen all over again? Thanks for watching VibeSense.